Dusty Rhodes is running creative in 2005. We've, as wrestling fans, heard a lot about the relationship that Dusty had with the Crockett's, and eventually the relationship he would have with the WWE down at the Performance Center. But not a lot of people know about the relationship Dusty had with the Carter family, specifically with Dixie. Can you speak to that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's pretty simple. It goes without saying. Conrad, didn't I just send you that GIF or something about Dusty and the midget? I feel like
a midget, a beaten off in the trash can. It never gets old for me and Crowbar. We send it to each other at least once every 10 days.
Okay. But no, Dusty, it is, let me think where to dive off into this, because the Jeff Dixie relationship, a lot of times sounds more complicated than it really was. And that other times the context on the situation really blew things out of control. But it was like a lot of business partners, very up and very down. And I've said it over and over and over on multiple different episodes. And I take, full responsibility for not being aware of this one simple thing: goal alignment. Our goals in day-to-day operations of TNA Entertainment were not the same. So as we rolled into 2005, so started in June of 2002. We had made the move to Orlando. We had done, I don't know, a little over 2 years, a little over, 110 episodes of the Wednesday night pay-per-views. But a big part of those Wednesday night pay-per-views is Dusty was living in Atlanta at the time. From a personal point of view, kind of going through some rough patches. His promotion, Turnbuckle, I think was up and down, but me and Dusty always got along really well. Actually much better than him and my father, but that's a whole different, they were at different stages of their life. But when Dusty started coming up, it was me and Dusty's relationship, that my dad was obviously there, but from almost as a mentor, I wanted to always sound things off on Dusty. But most importantly he was, this sounds so simplistic, not just a legend's legend, but Dusty could tell a story on a week-to-week basis, and he could do the talking for 4 or 5 people in the ring legitimately at the same time. He could get the story over no matter what. So I used him a lot. Old Dusty was so old school, I smile about and think about, 02, 03, 04. Dusty only had one deal. We had his money in cash ready when he walked in the door. He didn't want to wait till after the show. He wanted it to be hand delivered to him as he basically got to the arena. And that happened the entire time until we kind of got going to Orlando. But during that process, Dusty's a Texan, the Carters are Texans. And so he started his conversations with Dixie, which obviously gravitated over toward Bob and Janice. And as things rolled along, things got really tense, almost on a day-to-day basis, Conrad, between me and the Carters, because the pressure was on. They wanted an ROI. At one point, we're going to get into that in late 04, 05. They basically, they never came out and said it. Well, yeah, they did, but they were, we felt like we were pushing them in a direction from a financial perspective that we weren't really sure, but they never came out and said that. But we told them, hey, if you guys are ready to get out, we'll go search for money. And we did. I don't want to get too far in front of the story, but as those things were going along, and we collectively, a guy named Sam Copeland was instrumental in getting the Fox Sports deal. So I don't want to get too far ahead, Conrad, but I think that brought us up to speed what the Dusty relationship was with TNA. That's how it started, and this is kind of where we're at in the story.
Did Dixie recognize the talent and legacy and just legendary status of Dusty?
How could you not? I mean, and what I'm saying is, not even if you didn't even watch the live component of the show, just backstage, Dusty walked in, guys come up to him, talking, his charisma, him throwing out ideas. I'm sure she could even read my body language that I would say, hey, Dusty, what do you think about this or that? Or we're going this direction or that direction. Just kind of the respect we all showed him. But then obviously, in the ring, he certainly wasn't doing any X division moves, but his charisma said it all, and his mouth, his promo skills said it all. So absolutely, Dixie and her family recognize that, we're dealing with a legend here.
I don't mean this to be funny, but Bruce Pritchard has told stories before that Bob Carter would go to like the country club and, play golf with his buddies or whatever, and just mention, hey, you ever heard of Hulk Hogan? You know him? Yeah, he works for me. That it was like a feather in the cap that he had a legend like that under his employ, if you will. Do you think he felt the same way about Dusty, or was that maybe not the case?
Bob didn't play golf, but no. No, I would say that's a yes. I mean, they understood Hulk, Dusty, JR to a certain extent. They understood that those guys. Look, I go back to the meeting in Dallas when me and my father were there. Go back to the meeting in the Spike TV meeting. It's when you have, my dad used to call it the gray hair effect. When you have a gentleman at the table at this time, he's in his late 60s, early 70s, I guess, who is a lifer promoter, and now his son's falling in his footsteps. Without saying anything, it says a lot. So when you kind of look at Dusty Rhodes and talk to Dusty, his legacy spoke for itself. And Bob, in a great way, he knew what he didn't know, period.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well said. So one last question. You mentioned just almost in passing that you got along better with Dusty than your dad did. Can you give us some context for that? Is that because they both, in theory, quote unquote, ran their own territory, or was there more to it?
No, I think it's, look, when you kind of look at, and look, that might have been my perception, maybe not reality, but my dad was, how do I say this? Not one of the boys. He was one of the 22 promoters.
Yes.
Dusty was
trying to wear both hats,
and he did a damn good job of it, I'd have to say.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that negative. You know what I mean.
I know. What I'm saying is, and so my old man understood that, but there is a quote unquote conflict of interest when he's booking a show and they come in and he's not one of the boys. Like the boys that worked the Liberty Bowl opposite us, my dad had immense respect for all of them, as well as I do. He didn't much care for Crockett running the Great American Bash, because in his mind, hey man, let Junior, and I'm talking about Vince Jr., Vince, let him take it national. But Jimmy, your father taught you better than this. You're going national, and that's okay, and do what you got to do. But you're going to come in here and run opposition to Memphis? Aren't we?
They did try to do a partnership. They did run one joint show, and that's that show that you and I have talked about before, where there was rumor and innuendo. Would they do something with Lawler and swap the belt? And I guess that was something that your dad and Lawler really advocated for. And I imagine in the end, Jimmy and Dusty, they weren't so keen on that.
And I get that. I mean, look, hindsight's 20. I get all that. But you kind of asked that. I always think there was kind of so much water under the bridge.
I get you. But just residual heat, leftover, unresolved feelings as a normal human being would
say. This is my perception. Because at this point in 2002, 3, 4, my old man had done construction and 3 or 4 other businesses, and he's back into TNA. Dusty had gone down the road with Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. I don't know his exact relationship with WWE at this time, but he wasn't working for them. and he was excited to come up and do the Asylum shows every Wednesday. And Dusty, that's the thing that I most fondly remember about Dusty. When he showed up on Wednesdays, man, shoot, you couldn't ask for a more giving heart and mind. And I'll take that to eternity. Dusty really tried to help Jeff. That simple.